Welcome back on Dynamod. Today I want to propose you a video about the unboxing review about the White Dwarf issue 476 of May 2022, released by the Games Workshop. And here we have something that I quite like, because there are a lot of inserts that are quite interesting inside here, because we can start from here that there is the cover about the Black Templars. Sincerely, I don't like too much such cover, because I don't know, there is something in the pose of the Spirit Marine of the Black Templars that it doesn't fit in some way, so okay. Anyway, it's generally talking a really good cover, and now we go to see a bit better about the contents inside. Here we have the alternative cover of the White Dwarf that sincerely it's the same as we've seen here, simply with another background, as you can see, and complete one. I don't know, maybe with such film it's a bit better, I don't know, still it doesn't take me quite a lot, no, I don't know, it doesn't convince me anyway. And there is something added to this White Dwarf, and this here, that we have these ones that are for Warcry, so we have these ones eventually available to use. Anyway, there is an article inside where there is the display of such cards eventually, so not worry. Then we can flip and we can find the part related about the contents of the White Dwarf that are not few, so quite interesting. And here we have the contents about the mini list of the readers to the team of the White Dwarf. And as usual, I suggest you to go to see about such part, because there are a lot of things that can be interesting. For example, such one that it's a normal model that doesn't have quite a lot of modification, but has such base that it's a little add-in, and this little add-in make the difference. For example, think about this, can be interesting, or such diorama can be also, this one can be interesting. Or you can think about scheme of colors for the Armors of Tau, a different type of maybe army of Tyrannid that can be inspirational for maybe some theme. For example, think about this. This it's really quite simple F modifying as idea, because it's the cops of a part of the Canoptech spiders of the Necrons with additional parts of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and this make the difference. So you can find a lot of different options based on how you modify and you play, so it can be really quite interesting that way. So think about this, it's a modified model, but it's taken from a lot of different parts and created to make something completely different. So there are a lot of things. Think also about this. This it's a model of the House of Boripes that I like, but I'm trying to find ideas about how to realize options, and this type of base can be inspirational, for example, for my type of themes. I not use probably this one, but can inspire you something different eventually, so I suggest you to go to see about such ones. For example, think about this, it's a simple one, and if you think it's simple, seem like the Bella Dama Volga of the Surbright Gravelers, still made in such way make you that it's like a different contest, and with the orc can make you have a lot of hunting scenes, so it can be really quite interesting in such ways. So in this way I suggest you to go to see, because there are scheme of colors, but there are such type of little changing, little modifications that can be really quite inspirational and can give you a lot of options. And here an article about Phil Kelly on how you can personalize your army, so how you can take inspiration and how you can combine pieces, accessories and so on, so to create something really personal about your monsters, something that make you understand what you are going to see, what for example craftwood, what chapter you are going to use and so on, and so personalize a lot better, a lot more all your miniatures. Then we have the 40k. In this case we can find really nice image that it's about the Sisters of Battle against the Const Demons, and I like a lot such type of images. Here we have a novel about Flashpoint Necromunda that it's the main theme about the Warhammer 40k saga now, and it can be quite interesting. And here we can start instead about the rules of the campaign of Necromunda. So we have a lot of interesting options for the ones that are interested about to play the campaign, and so it can be really quite interesting. And here a bit better analysis of the Black Temple part, for example. So we can find the part about how to paint, and this can be applied, for example, for both the Sisters of Battle and the Black Temple. So it can be a lot of different options. So in some way the red and black theme for the armors and so on. About this I want to remind you that in the description I leave you my ways to paint the black and red armors if you're interested about. And there are a lot of things that you can use for example, creating something different, some modifying, for example, such models, or something completely new. So there are also here a lot of interesting things. For example, I like the scheme of color of such models, but I don't like such way to make them flying, because I don't like such type of things. Still, it can be quite interesting. Think about this Imperial Knight. This part, it's from the set of the Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Fantasy. It's the Sepulchrum. So here we have find a piece that it's put here so that you can complete personalize such model. So you can really mix a lot of different things together. And then here we have a fiction related about the Catachans against the orcs. And I like a lot, because there are such images that can be really inspirational, because there are a lot of things. For example, such part, you see this image, it's something that inspired me to create a model a lot of time ago about, that it's later about such, because I made an inspiration about. Still, it's a way to make you understand that you can take a lot of inspiration about such type of images and not necessarily use them for the image that you had, but get completely something new, simply maybe using something different as related. So it can be really quite interesting, such type of images, and it's always an inspirational things. I like a lot about the images, but also the text can be quite inspirational, so I suggest you to read eventually such things. Here instead we have new rules about Kill Team. So about these ones, if you're interested about Kill Team, for sure they are useful, because there are a lot of new things that you have to see about. So the White Dwarf, for the ones that play Kill Team, it's almost a buy-in that they have to do, because it's always interesting. Here instead an article about Elliot that talk about the rules, how to apply the rules of Kill Team, and can be a really good interesting way to understand how the authors of Kill Team are going to use and play Kill Team itself, so it can be quite interesting. And then we can move to Age of Sigmar with Slaanesh, the Demons of Slaanesh, against the Hedonites Deepkins. Sincerely, I like a lot Slaanesh. The new models are something amazing to see about. And then an article by James Aguilan that talk about the new release of the Battletome of the Night Hunt. And to make you be sure, I have yet the Battletome, so I'm going to realize the analysis of the video of such Battletome and so on. And so not worry about, you see also about this, because I play Death, so it's a must-have to bring you such type of videos, so not worry. But it's quite interesting, this analysis, and so if you're interested about to play the Night Hunt, can be quite useful to read. Not a must, obviously, but can be quite interesting to understand how and why they choose some type of things. Anyway, it can be quite interesting. I like the new Battletome. Still, I don't know if it's a must-have. Anyway, it's an increase about the previous one, but it's not so great as I would have hoped for. Still, it's quite good. And here instead we have a battle report that it's about the Sublight Gravers against the cities of Sigmar, in particular the Order of Mordor. And here we can see some models that we see in the past, so it can be really quite interesting about this, because it's a way to see such models and see analysis about the rules. As usual, when we see about a battle report. I suggest you to read it if you're interested about the Age of Sigmar, or if you want to know how it's played Age of Sigmar, because it can be quite interesting and so it can be quite useful. Eventually you can have a nice way to see about, for example, some type of modifying or so on, for example, such markers, such type of bases and so on, that can be useful to see something related, so that you can use an inspiration part about your armies and so on to create something completely new or something completely, I can say, particular, something that it's for a model or so on. And so I suggest you to give a sight about such things, because it can be really quite interesting. And here an article about the realm of the beasts, and so we have a better analysis of the realm skills of the beasts, and I think that can be really quite interesting to go to see about this, because it's a way to know better about such type of realm skills and so on, and know it better. Instead, here we have the Tome Selection, that it's about the Hedonites of Slaanesh. So the official update of the Hedonites of Slaanesh to the Dominion, the 3rd edition of Age of Sigmar. As usual, it's something that can be quite interesting about the background, the images that can be really quite interesting to see, because they can be really inspirational or make you start a new army too. And here we have the rules update about the Hedonites of Slaanesh, so it can be really quite useful for the ones that play it. Obviously there is also Path to Glory updated to the new edition, so that you can play also these ones with Path to Glory, so it can be quite interesting. And here instead the campaign that it's related about the Flashpoint Clash, that it's mainly related about obviously the Hedonites of Slaanesh, so can be also these quite interesting to play with if you're interested about. And then here we have an army gallery about an army of Hedonites of Slaanesh, and here we have quite interesting things to see. Sincerely, I don't like too much the bases because they are really quite simple, but the scheme of colors, the ideas that are inside and so on can be quite interesting to play with. So in that case, I suggest you to go to see about this, because it can be interesting, for example, to start to play such type of themes about the skins that you can use for other models instead of the Slaanesh models. So it's up to you decide how you want to play. Still can be really quite interesting to see. And here we have about Warcry, that, as I said, here are the new rules with these ones that we've seen for the insert about. And so for the ones that want to play the Warcry, here there are a lot of additional rules that you have to take note about, because there are a lot of things. I like, for example, such images. This is from the Arena Shades, that it's really quite interesting to use and play with. And then we have this about Necromunda with the new rules related about. So we have a lot of new things to take note about such, because there are a lot of things. And here instead about the Middle Earth, so the Lord of the Rings. About this, I suggest always to pay attention about how you are going to use everything, because, for example, these ones you can avoid the Miatus, but pay attention about, for example, the ruins or so on. They can be really quite interesting to see, or take, for example, the way to make some photos so that you can have some panoramic and scenic scenes, so it can be really quite interesting. Instead, here we have about Black Rivalry. Here it's always quite interesting, because it brings you new books that you can read, because at the end they give you a lot of interesting parts, or they can give you something that you can develop your ways. For example, you can learn a better English, or you can use such to understand an author and try to see if there are for that author other options that can be about your army that you like, or know better new armies so that they can inspire you. So it's always a good thing that there is, because you can have something, because maybe you buy the White Dwarf for other things, and this it's an add-in that it's always welcome. So it's something that I suggest always to give a try, at least if not to read by itself. And then we have this, the Inside the Studio, that bring you what we see in the next White Dwarf. So it can be really quite interesting to see and have a sight of what's happening, what are going to be in the White Dwarf happening and so on. So I think that it's quite interesting, and having also some anticipation of scheme of cards that can be interesting, for example these ones about the Subbreak levels. And in the next White Dwarf, it's yet said that there will be the update about the World Eaters. So it will be quite interesting because the World Eaters changed a bit along the time, but I like to see what will happen to the rules about them. So what to say about such White Dwarf? I think that it's really quite interesting, and there are a lot of things to say about. There are a lot of things later about how to paint, how to modify, but mainly about the rules. So you had the rules for Age of Sigmar with the Hedonites of Slaanesh, you had the new rules about Necromunda, about Warcry, so you have a lot of things, and you have also the campaigns if you are interested about them, both for 40k and Age of Sigmar. So there are a lot of different things that if you're interested about such type of things, I suggest you to buy such White Dwarf. It's not a must-have other than for the ones that play Necromunda, Warcry or the Hedonites of Slaanesh. Still, I think that there are a lot of interesting contents to look out. So, from Dino Mode, it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.